Producer Sam Spiegel's sole concession to Orson Welles on this picture was to build a full-sized clock tower, 124 feet tall, on the Universal backlot, where all the exteriors were shot. It was the tallest structure built for a Hollywood film since the Babylonian temples constructed for D.W. Griffith's 1916 epic Intolerance. Production designer Perry Ferguson, who'd served as associate art director on Citizen Kane, got a tip that a full-sized clock had been removed years earlier from the tower of the Los Angeles County Courthouse, and it was still stored in the building's basement. And Spiegel hauled it out of mothballs for this film. Now, Welles was adamant that all the scenes in the clock tower be created without the use of matte paintings or back projection. He wanted the danger to feel as real as possible. That meant Loretta Young was actually climbing the ladder inside the tower and dangling off it for a close-up 50 feet above the studio floor.
You're telling the truth?
Why should I lie?
For safety's sake, a crew member held a cable running down her sleeve attached to a harness around her waist, just in case the stuntman holding her lost his grip. But in take after take, as Young stepped off the ladder and swung over the void, the cable could be seen tugging at her sleeve. So finally, between takes, Young asked the stuntman, "What are the chances you'll drop me?" And the guy said, "Only if I have a heart attack." So without alerting Welles, Young told the stuntman, "Cut the cable, or we're going to be here all day." Well, the next take was a keeper. Now, in a book-length interview called Eavesdropping about her life and movies, Loretta Young admitted to having a big fat crush on Orson Welles when they made this film. She found him talented and charming and handsome in a sort of cherubic way. Far from being terrified of the villain he was playing, Young found herself laughing helplessly at the boy wonder's baby face. Welles eventually took her aside and told her to not make fun of him in front of the crew. And Young said, "I'm not making fun of you. It's just that when you get so serious, your face is so cute, it makes me laugh." Cameraman Russell Meddy sometimes had to send Young back to makeup to smooth out the laugh lines that were appearing around her mouth in close-ups. And finally, Welles had no recourse but to give Young her directions while standing behind her, so she didn't have to look him in the face. Young also had a less amusing but very telling recollection of her co-star and director. She said, "He was so sensitive, I don't know why that man didn't just throw up his hands and scream at everybody and walk off the set. I felt Sam Spiegel, the producer, was jealous of him. The whole front office was jealous of him because he was so talented and could juggle all these balls in midair. People tested him all the time, the men. They were all so jealous." Well, I suppose you should expect that if you're married to Rita Hayworth and Loretta Young has a crush on you. Now, Welles's favorite part of the film was the opening, when Conrad Meineke is set loose to track down his former colleague. It's a sequence filled with Welles's usual visual and oral flourishes, and it was much longer in the director's 115-minute first cut, sort of a film within the film. But, as was typically the case with Welles, the producers deemed it needlessly extravagant and cut it down to speed up the story. As Meineke, actor Constantine Shane gives a vivid portrayal, as he always did. Noir fans will recognize him as the unlicensed surgeon in Cry of the City and the bookstore owner who provides the backstory of Carlotta Valdez in Vertigo. Now, Welles himself often disparaged the stranger as merely a work for hire, but the character of Charles Rankin must have been memorable for him, since some of Rankin's malevolent dialogue, like God looking down on little ants, resurfaced 3 years later when Welles wrote his own dialogue for the Ferris wheel scene in The Third Man, where he portrayed one of the greatest and most charming villains in movie history. Now, next week, Noir Alley presents a less charming, more penny ante villain, as Barry Sullivan plays a small-time hood carving out his piece of a seaside vice racket in The Gangster. It's one of the strangest, most theatrical of all noir films. I'm eager to hear what you think of it. Now, while we wait for next week to roll around, keep the conversation going on the Noir Alley Facebook page and Twitter feed. and check out the online store for stylish Noir Alley merchandise. Meanwhile, I'll save a seat for you at the bar.